Sarah's hand freezes on the laundry basket. Through the cracked bedroom door, she watches her 5-year-old son proudly present a crayon drawing to his father. "It's you and Mia sleeping," Liam announces. The nanny's ponytail is unmistakable. Sarah's fingers grip the wicker so tightly it creaks. She steps forward. The Connecticut morning light slanted through the kitchen windows, catching the dust motes dancing over the breakfast table. Sarah poured coffee and watched Liam methodically destroy his pancakes, constructing what he called a syrup volcano. From the living room, Mia's voice floated in, reading aloud from a picture book, her Australian accent turning bare into something musical. Sarah loved these moments, the house humming with gentle activity, her son safe and occupied, the morning stretching ahead with nothing more urgent than deadlines and laundry. David had left for the train station an hour ago, his kiss still warm on her cheek. 8 years of marriage and they'd settled into something comfortable. Not the wildfire of their 20s, but something that felt like home. Through the doorway, she watched Mia gesture animatedly at the book, Liam giggling at whatever voices she was making. The nanny had been with them for over a year now. Sarah remembered interviewing her, impressed by the young woman's easy confidence, her obvious affection for children. "I grew up with 3 younger brothers," Mia had said, laughing. "Patience is survival." Sarah rinsed her coffee cup and headed toward her home office. "I'll be working until noon," she called. "Liam, you be good for Mia." "We're making a castle," Liam shouted back, already running toward the cardboard boxes in the corner. The morning passed in the comfortable rhythm of keyboard clicks and distant giggles. Around 11, Sarah emerged for more coffee and paused in the hallway. The giggling had stopped. Instead, she heard low voices from the living room, Mia's soft laugh, then David's voice replying. David was supposed to be in Manhattan. She stepped into the doorway. David stood by the couch, still in his suit jacket, holding a coffee mug. Mia sat on the arm of the sofa, leaning toward him, her hand resting on the cushion inches from his leg. Liam was absorbed in his Legos on the floor, oblivious. "Forgot my presentation folder," David said smoothly, turning at her footsteps. "Train was just pulling in when I realized. Jumped off at the last second." He smiled, and it was his regular smile, the one she'd seen 1,000 times. Sarah nodded. "That's frustrating. Better than presenting without it." He crossed to her, kissed her forehead. "I'll catch the next one. Love you." She watched him walk out, then glanced at Mia, who had already turned back to Liam, helping him sort red bricks from blue. Everything looked normal. Everything felt slightly off. Back at her desk, Sarah stared at her screen without seeing it. The voices had been low, intimate. She'd felt for a moment like an interruption in her own home. Then she shook her head. David forgot things sometimes. Mia was friendly with everyone. She was being ridiculous. But when she walked past the laundry room later, she noticed David's suit jacket hanging there. She stopped. He'd said he forgot his presentation folder. He hadn't mentioned forgetting his jacket, too. Sarah touched the fabric, then pulled her hand back. It meant nothing. It had to mean nothing. She closed the laundry room door and went back to work. 2 weeks passed, and Sarah became an amateur collector of small, insignificant details. A coffee mug on the nightstand that she hadn't placed there. David coming home with takeout from the Thai place Mia had mentioned loving. The way conversation in the kitchen would quiet slightly when she entered, then resume at normal volume. She told herself she was imagining things. She'd read an article once about how women are conditioned to distrust their own perceptions, and she refused to be that woman. Suspicious, jealous, checking phone bills. David loved her. They had a good marriage. They had a child. But the details kept accumulating. Tuesday afternoon, Sarah finished work early and found Mia and Liam in the backyard. Liam was chasing bubbles, shrieking with delight. Mia sat on the grass, legs stretched out, watching him with an expression Sarah couldn't quite name. It wasn't the patient watchfulness of an employee. It was something softer. "Sarah, look." Liam ran to her, grabbing her hand. "Mia said we can get ice cream. Can you come? Can you?" Sarah looked at Mia, who smiled easily. "My treat. Well, my treat for Liam. You're on your own." She laughed, and it was warm, uncomplicated. "I have work," Sarah heard herself say. "You two go." She watched them walk down the sidewalk, Liam's hand in Mia's, his head tilted up, talking nonstop. They looked like a mother and son. The thought arrived unbidden and unwelcome. That night, she asked David casually, "Do you think Mia is happy here? I mean, does she seem settled?" David looked up from his laptop, brows furrowed. "She seems fine. Liam adores her." "Why?" "Just wondering if she's lonely, being so far from home." "She's young, she's having an adventure." David returned to his screen. "Don't overthink it, Sarah." The word overthink lodged in her chest like a splinter. Friday evening, David worked late. Sarah put Liam to bed and found herself in the living room, looking at the bookshelf. A book on Australian wildlife she didn't remember buying. A travel guide to Sydney. She pulled it out and leafed through it. No inscription, no note. But David had mentioned just last week that he'd love to visit Australia someday. Mia had laughed and offered to be their tour guide. Sarah put the book back carefully, exactly at the same angle. She slept poorly that night, and when David came to bed around midnight, she pretended to be asleep. He didn't touch her. He lay on his back, staring at the ceiling, and after a long time, she heard him whisper something she couldn't make out. In the morning, she found Liam already downstairs, sitting at the kitchen table with a fresh sheet of paper and a handful of crayons. Mia was making pancakes, humming something unrecognizable. "What are you drawing, sweetheart?" Sarah asked, pouring coffee. Liam didn't look up. "Daddy and Mia." Sarah's hand tightened on the mug. "What about them?" "They're sleeping," Liam said matter-of-factly. He held up the drawing. Two figures lay side by side on what was clearly a bed, one with a beard, one with yellow ponytail. A blue blanket covered them. A sun peeked through a window. "Daddy said it was our secret." Sarah set down her coffee mug very carefully, as if it might explode. "Our secret." Liam nodded, returning to his drawing, adding what looked like a Meg or possibly a very lumpy cat. "Daddy said Mia gets shy, so I shouldn't tell." He looked up with his father's eyes, trusting and open. "But you're not telling, Mommy, you're just looking." Across the kitchen, Mia's back was still turned, her humming continuing unaware. She reached for the maple syrup, her movements casual, unhurried. In 5 seconds, she would turn around with pancakes and a smile. Sarah had 5 seconds to decide what her face would show. She used them to memorize the drawing, the careful lines, the two figures side by side, the sun shining down as if this were a happy scene. Her son had documented something. Her son had kept a secret for his father. "Mia," Sarah said, and her voice sounded almost normal. "Would you mind taking Liam to the park after breakfast? I have a phone meeting in an hour." Mia turned, beaming. "Absolutely. Liam, want to feed the ducks after pancakes." Liam cheered. Sarah watched them, and the easy rapport, the shared enthusiasm, and felt something fundamental shift inside her, like a tectonic plate sliding against another. The next hour passed in a blur of breakfast, backpacks, sunscreen application. Sarah kissed Liam goodbye at the door, waved as they walked down the driveway, and closed the door behind them. Then she leaned against it, closed her eyes, and waited for her heart to stop pounding. When it didn't, she went upstairs. Their bedroom was undisturbed. Bed made, pillows arranged, David's books stacked neatly on his nightstand. Sarah opened his closet first, hating herself even as she did it. She didn't know what she was looking for. A note, a receipt, proof that would make her feel less crazy, or proof that would destroy her. In the back pocket of his suit pants, she found a receipt. Thai restaurant, last Tuesday, lunch for two. David was supposed to be in the city on Tuesdays. Sarah sat on the edge of the bed, the receipt trembling in her fingers. She could explain this away. He'd met a client, he'd taken a colleague to lunch. There were 100 explanations. But there was also Liam's drawing, and the secret, and the way David had whispered something to the ceiling last night. She went to Liam's room next, standing in the doorway of the bright, cluttered space. His art supplies were scattered on the little desk. She found more drawings, dinosaurs, spaceships, a surprisingly good fish, and tucked behind his books, another one she hadn't seen. Two figures, again in a bed, this time with hearts above their heads. Sarah sank into Liam's desk chair, the drawing in her hands. He'd drawn this days ago, maybe weeks. He'd kept showing her the happy pictures, the ones with all three of them, with speckles, the fish, with the sun, and hidden these, because Daddy said Mia gets shy. She heard the front door open downstairs. Her phone buzzed. A text from Mia. Forgot Liam's water bottle. Be right back. Sarah folded the drawing carefully and slipped it into her pocket. Then she walked downstairs, smiled at Mia retrieving the water bottle, waved them off again. When the door closed the second time, she went to the kitchen and called her sister. Claire, can you come over? I need you to watch Liam for a few hours tomorrow. What's wrong? Nothing, I just need to run some errands. Sarah's voice was steady now, calm. David's working late tomorrow, and I have things to do. She hung up and looked around her kitchen. The spotless counters, the family photos on the fridge, the calendar marking swim lessons and parent-teacher conferences. Her home, her life, her son's drawings, hidden behind his books because his father asked him to keep secrets. Tomorrow she would run her errands, and she would stop at a frame shop. The frame shop was a small, independent place downtown, run by an elderly man who took his craft seriously. Sarah chose a simple white frame, clean, modern, the kind that would blend in with their bedroom decor, the kind that would hang on the wall and become part of the background. She gave him Liam's drawing, and he admired it with the polite enthusiasm adults reserve for children's art. Talented boy, he said. Is this for his room? My bedroom, actually. Sarah smiled. It's my favorite. She picked it up 2 days later, wrapped in brown paper, and hid it in the back of her closet behind winter sweaters. David was in the city that day. Actually in the city, she'd confirmed by calling his office. Mia had taken Liam to a movie. Sarah sat on her bedroom floor, the framed drawing beside her, and allowed herself to feel the full weight of what she knew. She'd done more research in those 2 days. Phone records. David called Mia's number more than he called his own wife. Credit card statements, a hotel in Stamford, cash withdrawals on days he claimed to be in Manhattan. She'd even driven by the hotel, sat in the parking lot, watched couples come and go until she felt sick. She hadn't confronted him yet. Something held her back. Not fear exactly, but a strange, detached curiosity. She wanted to see how long it would continue. She wanted to watch them perform normalcy, knowing now what lay beneath. That evening, David came home with flowers. Just because, he said, kissing her cheek. You've seemed stressed lately. I wanted to cheer you up. Sarah accepted the roses, smelled them, put them in a vase. That's sweet. Thank you. Mia came in from putting Liam to bed. He's asking for another story, she said, her voice soft with affection. I told him tomorrow. David smiled at her. It was a different smile than the one he gave Sarah. Warmer, more private. Sarah saw it clearly now, the way she hadn't before. Stay for wine, David asked Mia. We haven't talked about next week's schedule. Mia glanced at Sarah, who nodded. Of course, I'll open something. They sat in the living room, Sarah in the armchair, David and Mia on opposite ends of the couch like polite strangers. They discussed Liam's swim lessons, David's upcoming business trip, Mia's plans for the holidays. Everything civil, everything normal. When Mia left around 10, David came to bed and reached for Sarah. She let him hold her, lay rigid in his arms, stared at the blank wall above their bed where something new would soon hang. I love you, David murmured into her hair. Sarah said nothing. In the morning, she woke before dawn and retrieved the framed drawing from the closet. She stood on the bed, balanced carefully, and hung it on the wall where they would see it every morning and every night. Then she sat on the edge of the mattress and waited for David to wake up. David's eyes opened slowly, the way they always did, squinting against the light, reaching automatically for his phone to check the time. Then he saw her, sitting at the foot of the bed, fully dressed, watching him. What time is it? His voice was rough with sleep. Early. Sarah didn't move. Look up. He blinked, confused, and raised his eyes to the wall above the headboard. For a long moment, he didn't react. Then his face changed, the blood draining, his mouth opening slightly, a hand rising as if to ward something off. Is that... He couldn't finish. Liam drew it, Sarah said calmly, weeks ago. He's been keeping it a secret because you asked him to, because Mia gets shy. David sat up, sheets pooling around his waist. Sarah, listen to me. I've been listening to you for months. She stood, walked to the wall, touched the frame. I've been listening to you explain late meetings and business lunches and why you smell like someone else's perfume. I've been listening to myself tell me I was imagining things. David was out of bed now, reaching for her. She stepped back. Don't touch me. Don't explain. Don't tell me it's not what I think, because I know what I think now and I know I'm right. She pointed at the drawing. Our son drew this. Our 5-year-old son documented you sleeping with the nanny. Do you understand what that means? He saw something. He drew what he saw. David's face crumpled. For a terrible moment, he looked like he might cry. It was a mistake. It was never supposed to. When Sarah's voice cracked for the first time. When was the first time? In my house, while I was working, while Liam was playing in the next room. He didn't answer. He didn't have to. Downstairs, they heard Mia's key in the lock. Her cheerful call. Good morning, I brought bagels. Sarah walked past David, out of the bedroom, down the stairs. Mia stood in the kitchen, holding a paper bag, her smile bright and open. When she saw Sarah's face, the smile faltered. Is everything okay? Liam is still asleep. Sarah took the bagels, set them on the counter. You should pack your things. Mia's face went white. Sarah, pack your things and leave. If you're still here when Liam wakes up, I will tell him exactly why you're leaving. And then I will tell everyone else, his teachers, your other families, anyone who will listen, exactly what you did in this house. For a moment, Mia looked like she might argue. Then something in Sarah's eyes stopped her. She nodded once and walked toward the stairs. Not the guest room, Sarah said. My bedroom. David's up there. You can say goodbye. She sat at the kitchen table and listened to the footsteps above. 2 sets, moving, stopping, moving again. Muffled voices, then more footsteps, heavier, coming down. David appeared in the kitchen doorway. Sarah, please, we need to talk about this, for Liam's sake. You should have thought about Liam's sake before you asked him to keep secrets. She didn't look up. I want you out by the end of the week. We'll figure out custody later, but you're not sleeping here anymore. Where am I supposed to? I don't care. Now she looked at him and he flinched. I genuinely don't care. Mia came down with her suitcase, face blotchy from crying. She paused at the kitchen entrance, but Sarah waved her toward the door without speaking. The door opened, the door closed. Silence. Sarah sat alone in her kitchen, the bagels growing cold on the counter, and waited for her son to wake up. 3 months later, the house was quieter. David had moved to an apartment in Stamford, close enough for school drop-offs, far enough that Sarah no longer caught his scent in the hallway. They'd worked out a schedule. Liam spent weekends with his father, weekdays with him. He'd stopped asking about Mia after the second week, when Sarah had explained that Mia moved away to be with her family in Australia. It wasn't even a lie. Claire came over often. Neighbor Ellen babysat. Sarah's mother flew in for a week and cleaned out the refrigerator without being asked. Life contracted to the manageable rhythms of school runs, grocery shopping, bedtime stories. And every night Sarah lay in bed and looked at the drawing above her. She'd expected to take it down after David left. She'd expected the sight of it to be unbearable. The evidence of betrayal, the record of her son's lost innocence. But somehow she couldn't. It had become something else. Some nights, it was a monument to her own blindness. Look what you didn't see, it said. Look what was happening in your own home. Other nights, it was a testament to her son, his honesty, his unfiltered observation of the world. He'd seen something wrong and drawn it, not understanding, just recording, the way children do. Tonight, Liam was asleep down the hall, clutching a stuffed kangaroo that Claire had bought to replace the one Mia gave him. Sarah lay on her side, facing the wall, studying the crayon figures in their crayon bed. She'd learned things about herself in the past months. She was stronger than she'd known. She was angrier than she'd ever been. She was capable of making coffee and signing permission slips and smiling at school events, while a part of her screamed constantly in a soundproof room. The drawing witnessed all of it. Tomorrow, David would pick Liam up for the weekend. They'd go to the aquarium or the movies or whatever fathers did in apartments with rented furniture. Liam would come back with stories and drawings of his own. New ones, happy ones, depicting a life divided into 2 houses. And Sarah would be here, in this bed, under this drawing. She reached up and touched the frame, tracing the corner where Liam's crayon had gone slightly outside the lines. He'd been so careful with the people, Daddy's beard, Mia's ponytail, and so careless with the edges. A child's priorities. Somewhere in Australia, Mia was probably living her life, young and unburdened, the whole thing already fading into a story she'd tell selectively. Somewhere in Stamford, David was probably convincing himself it hadn't been that bad, that Sarah had overreacted, that time would heal everything. But here, in this room, the drawing remained, unchanged, unforgetting. Sarah rolled onto her back, staring at the ceiling, the frame a white rectangle in her peripheral vision. She'd thought, when she hung it, that she was making a statement, a declaration. This happened. You can't erase it. Now she understood she'd done something else entirely. She'd given herself a witness, something that would never look away, never make excuses, never pretend. In the morning, Liam would run in with a sleepy smile and climb into bed with her, and they'd make pancakes together, and the drawing would watch them from the wall, a strange sort of guardian, a piece of their history that would never be packed away. Sarah closed her eyes. Above her, two crayon figures slept on, forever unaware, under a sun that never set.